This is CBS 7 News at 6. Your eye on West Texas.
The only source, since we don't have any rivers, is from the groundwater.
After years of securing its water supply, the city of Fort Stockton is now looking to sell its precious resource to the city of Odessa.
The city of Fort Stockton has been the center of major water disputes. Most recently, the fight between the city and Midland businessman Clayton Williams. 3 fatal crashes in just one day, and transportation officials say these deadly accidents are happening more and more in West Texas.
CBS 7 Shannon Murray joins us to explain why they claim driving in the Permian Basin isn't what it used to be.
We begin all new tonight at 10 o'clock. A new program could offer hope for young immigrants who are working in the U.S. but do not have citizenship.
Tonight, dozens of West Texans gathered at a community forum to learn about a controversial program called Deferred Action.
He was found guilty on all 3 charges of capital murder. CBS 7's Jay Hendricks is live at the Ector County Courthouse with the latest. Jay?
Tatum, good evening. I'm coming to you from outside of the Ector County Courthouse, where, as you might imagine, it's been a long 4 days in this capital murder trial of James Doyle Burwell. A little over an hour ago, an Ector County jury came back with a guilty verdict. Families are still cleaning up after a tornado hits the community of Gardendale. Here's a look at the map showing the 1-mile-long path of destruction.
Our top story tonight at 6 o'clock. A toddler is in custody of Child Protective Services after he was found wandering in front of an apartment complex on a busy Midland road.
Police were notified around 7:30 this morning that the young child wearing only a diaper was found in the frontage road near Loop 250 and Best Buy.
This certainly qualifies as a mass trauma situation where they are working upwards of 20 people who were injured in this crash. We have confirmed multiple fatalities. One source tells us that some of those fatalities are indeed the servicemen who were here to be honored in our area. Jay Hendricks is live on the scene where people are stunned. They sat and watched this happen. Jay, tell us, you're with a witness. Tell us what she saw.
Tatum, we, of course, are here on the scene. A lot of people have been standing around, as we told you, and a lot of these folks were here watching what was going on. Lydia Rodriguez joins me now. She's with Stripe. She was one of the people here. Absolute tragedy. You were here, I'm sure, with a lot of people watching these soldiers, soldiers and Marines who were riding here. Describe what you saw.
Okay.
And then tomorrow they were to take off and leave for a guided hunt for white-tailed deer in the San Angelo area. We want you to take a look at some of this video that came into our studio just minutes after the crash happened. And that video there is such a heartbreaking moment when we don't know how this woman is connected. Maybe she's just someone who happened to be standing by and watching it, but very emotionally impacted by what she heard. We heard witnesses describe a very loud boom all of a sudden when that train came through and hit the flatbed trailer. One trailer had already safely made it through the intersection, but the second one was hit by a train.
The train may have moved on, but the jarring memories of yesterday's crash continues to haunt witnesses, and the questions of how this could have happened remain. Tonight, we'll have team coverage of the aftermath from yesterday's crash. First, we'll hear from Shannon Murray live from the scene with the latest developments, then a look at how our community is reacting to such a horrific tragedy. Today, we learned the names of those lost. Tonight, we'll learn about what made them American heroes. And finally, we'll take a look at how West Texans are opening their hearts and pocketbooks in the wake of the crash. We begin our coverage of this developing story on the scene of the tragedy on the tracks. CBS 7's Shannon Murray has been at the railroad crossing speaking with officials this afternoon. She joins us now live with the latest. Shannon?
Officials are starting to clear the scene here in downtown Midland. They did tell us that shortly they'll be opening up these roads right here behind us. And actually behind this truck here, you can still see the truck bed where those Wounded War veterans were traveling yesterday when this incident took place. We do have an update from the city of Midland that we just received. One more victim this afternoon has been treated and released from Midland Memorial. 3 more listed in stable condition and 1 more in critical at Midland Memorial Hospital. There is still one of the spouses who is in Lubbock in serious condition. We did wrap up a press conference just about 30 minutes ago or so with the NTSB, who says that they're still looking at a lot of questions right now, continuing their investigation. Some of those being about the signals themselves here on the railroad tracks. You know, were those signals functioning, and also about the train itself. You know, they say that right now the train was traveling at 62 miles per hour. The speed limit here is about 70 miles per hour. But their main question is about those signals. Did they go down in time? Did the lights go off? All of those sorts of things that they'll be conducting over the next 7 to 10 days here on the site. But they did say this investigation investigation could take up to a year before they know a lot of the answers to those questions. We've spent the entire day today just going around and talking with people. We spent some time at the hotel this evening where family members and some of those veterans who are still here in town are still grieving and just trying to piece together everything that happened here this week while they were in town here in Midland. We did talk with the Hunt for Heroes organizer, Terry Johnson, today, who was in tears and just is still in shock really about the entire thing. Obviously feeling very emotional. This is an event that's very close to his heart and to everyone here in this community, as we've seen it become quickly a tradition here in our town, and something that a lot of people in the community really support and look forward to every year, watching that parade here in town as it leaves from the Hilton, or what is now the DoubleTree downtown. Of course, there are still a lot of questions that are unanswered, and the NTSB says they'll still be here throughout the weekend, giving us more updates as those become available. For now, reporting live in downtown Midland, I'm Shannon Murray. Back to you.
Thank you. Our community is just now starting to understand the impact that this accident had on not just the basin, but on our nation. And the question on everyone's minds is, how could this have happened? CBS 7's Ashley Melnick joins us live from the scene where investigators are attempting to answer that question. Ashley?
Robert, since the arrival, federal officials have held 2 press conferences providing updates on this investigation. It's been a thorough process, and it's only the beginning.
This morning, the crossing remained blocked. Now the train has moved on, but the question of how this could happen remains. Investigators from the National Transportation Safety arrived from Washington, D.C. to begin a 7 to 10-day on-site investigation.
Has responded with a 16-member
NTSB spokesman Mark Roskine says specialists will collect footage such as the train's forward-facing camera, a recorder that monitors the horn, speed, and slowdowns, and even document the camera on the sheriff's car, which was directly behind the float that was struck.
Their primary job will be to thoroughly document the accident site, and then also to make sure that we collect all the factual information, especially things focused on anything that could be perishable at this time.
The immediate data will be sent on a standby airplane possibly today, which will head to D.C. to be analyzed at the NTSB lab.
Okay. Our mission is to determine the probable cause of the accident. Many people think that it's just describing what happened. It goes far beyond that. We're actually interested in determining why it happened, because it's that why that allows us as an agency to determine what safety recommendations are needed to make sure these kinds of accidents don't happen into the future.
Many speculations surround whether or not the warning crossing system was working. But Roskine says they have not determined if it was functioning properly.
What I want to point out is anybody that's got an eyewitness account or video or photographs that would be helpful, we will have probably a phone number or email address, and I can't tell you how invaluable that is.
We are told there are 7 teams here in Midland that are investigating the incident, and they will report thousands of pages of data, which will then be analyzed and assessed by a board up in D.C., and that part can take up to a year. Reporting live in Midland, I'm Ashley Melnick, CBS 7 News.
A chaotic scene after a train slams into one of the Hunt for Heroes parade floats. What was intended to be a day of celebration and honor suddenly was devastating.
We bring these veterans from around the country to Midland, where the community comes together to celebrate, the heroic actions these veterans have performed. They're all injured veterans from the war, and for it to end like this is just devastating.
In the blink of an eye, these veterans found themselves in a situation too familiar. Devastation all around, requiring immediate action.
Unfortunately, this is a scene that several of these veterans have probably seen before in the streets of Iraq or Afghanistan.
Dr. Sudeep Bose, who is also a war veteran, was the designated physician for the event and was the only doctor on the scene. He says the wounded veterans jumped into action immediately, attending to the injured.
Before EMS crews arrived, they themselves started helping each other and tying tourniquets and stopping bleeding vessels.
Bose says amidst the screaming and pandemonium, the veterans helped him stage a field triage, using the training they received in the military. They scrambled to save who they could and comfort those they couldn't. But Bose says the quick reaction is to credit for the number of survivors of the horrific accident.
It's amazing, the human spirit in moments of chaos like this. It's the same human spirit that we see in combat, where when situations get chaotic and people need help, these veterans, they really rise to the occasion and begin helping each other.
Emergency responders arrived shortly after and rushed the 18 injured to the hospital. Reporting for CBS 7 News, I'm Robert Guadarrama.
We continue to dig for answers on the tragedy that has shaken the tall city. The investigation continues into what caused that horrific train crash that slammed into a parade float, killing 4 veterans. Here is what we learned today. Early this morning, the identity of the driver of the float was revealed. Who is he? The question of whether a parade permit was approved has been answered, and now the city is taking a step back. And it was a scene that many had hoped to forget, but today investigators recreated it in painstaking detail. So will the site test supply the answers that the entire nation is demanding? CBS 7's Shannon Murray stood by and watched as the site test was performed. She joined us now live in Midland with the details. Shannon.
Today, the National Transportation Safety Board held a sight distance test here at the intersection where that crash happened last week. They used a train as well as a truck that were very similar to those involved in the crash on last Thursday. Now, what they basically did is they had the truck right here on the intersection of the tracks, and then they also had the train a little bit far back. Now, the point of this is to tell if the conductor of that train would have been able to see the truck on the tracks and vice versa. It's all about exactly what it's called, the sight and the distance. Now, another thing that they were able to see is the point of impact. That's another thing that they use as part of their investigation. They brought the train all the way up to the threshold of this intersection, right where the truck was, and they're able to see exactly where it would have hit and what that sight and distance would have been right there for that point of impact. Again, this is all part of their investigation. They're taking measurements, getting pictures of everything here on site today. It lasted for about 3 hours. Now, in addition to the City of Midland crews out here and the NTSB, there were also a group of lawyers here on site watching this test very closely. One of the men that we spoke to is actually a train accident lawyer, meaning he specializes in accidents like this that involve trains. And he says watching this test run is very important and something that can really help him in his case.
Well before this signal system ever activates, you can see a train's coming, which means that train can also see something as big as a semi.
The National Transportation Safety Board says their on-site investigation is not over yet. They will be here throughout the end of the week, possibly through the weekend and into next week. They even have plans to work on Thanksgiving Day. For now, reporting live in Midland, I'm Shannon Murray, CBS 7 News.